Welcome to Laws of Heroism, Episode 1, where 3 trading card game players quest and challenge their way to find true friendship and harness the power of teamwork at the competitive tables of Lorcana. This week, we will discuss our opinions of Disney's Lorcana and the latest news, answer your questions, and go over the latest developments in the metagame. I'm your host, Hero John, and joining me today is Hero Hines and the Honorable Judge Jimmy. Gentlemen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Judge Jimmy, and I've been playing card games nearly my whole life, starting with Pokemon, and over the years playing Yu-Gi-Oh!, Deciphers, Lord of the Rings, trading card game, Dragon Ball Z, World of Warcraft, TCG, Magic, and now Lorcana. I love the heroics involved with questing to victory.
Hero Hines, tell us about yourself.
Hi there, I'm Hero Hines. I've been playing Lorcana for about a year now. Other than that, I never played any card games before this. So this is pretty much most of my experience. I do now play Pokemon as well, and I had a little stint playing Star Wars, but Lorcana is my one and only game now. And I also mostly collect and trade Lorcana and Pokemon.
And I'm Hero John. I used to play Magic a little bit back in the late 90s, but more just kitchen table stuff. Got into Lorcana from the beginning, and this is definitely the game I've played the most TCG-wise, so... Yeah, we're all kind of newish. Judge Jimmy, obviously, is the most experienced amongst us, no surprise. But yeah, with that said, we should hop into our Olympus news. And not a whole lot, really, to talk about on the, maybe the official front, like Ravensburger. I don't think's really mentioned anything in the past week or so. It's mainly been... We had a weekend of some tournaments here. I think Bologna had. Do you guys know who hosted this one? It was Lore something, not Lore Pro, was it?
I know Lore Pro streamed it, but I don't know if it was a particular host.
Lore League, maybe Lore League.
Lore League.
I think it was Lore League. Yeah, so that was a 400 plus person tournament.
Yep, Lore League.
The last I heard, do you know if we know what the winning deck was or who the winner was out of that one?
Mm-hmm.
I heard they were going to release the deck lists on Tuesday maybe or something like that, but it doesn't really help us right now. But we also had World Class Cards, WCC. Is that what they stand for?
Yep.
They had a 10K weekend. I don't know if you guys caught any of it yesterday. I think it's still going on while we're recording.
Yeah, it's the day 2, I believe,
Yeah.
of more fun.
Well, actually, so the way I understand it, day 1 was a 5K. Day 2 was a 5K. But it wasn't like a day 1, 7 rounds, right? And you qualify into day 2.
They just finished it up, right?
Yeah, everything in day 1 and then everything in day 2. So there was like 13 hours of casting or something yesterday. Did either of you catch any of those games?
I watched a bit. So I'm playing a bunch of games myself. So.
Yeah, we'll get to this later, right? Because we'll talk about the meta. That yesterday's day 1 of the 10K tournament was that was one we have the most information on, I think. So we'll definitely talk about the meta a little bit at our main segment. But yeah, I think they followed DKP a lot on the stream, at least the stream that I watched. So I saw a lot of Ruby Sapphire, a lot of McDuck Man.
Yeah.
All day yesterday.
Which even his Ruby Sapphire has always been a little different, which is fun.
Yeah, he definitely has that late bloomer that came from the Australia DLC. But yeah, I don't want to dive too much into the meta there. And I don't know how much we can talk about the non-news, I guess you can say. We still
the lack of news.
The lack of news of Worlds. we can play the fun game though of, so our original estimates or leaks that they had put it at March, right? Like we were
Right,
supposed
yeah,
to
it's
get.
supposed to be NA Nationals, right? Was like right after EU Nationals, and then we were like, okay, so surely right after that there'll be a quick break, and then Worlds. But
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but so Worlds obviously would be very exciting. I'm looking forward to watching Worlds or hearing about Worlds.
Yeah.
For me, I just want to know about DLC. When's the next DLC
yeah,
that I can go to?
and is it going to be St. Louis? You know, what we need to know.
When
That
is
would
the
be,
DLC St. Louis? Yeah.
yeah, that'd be great. So, assuming we have more DLCs this year, Ryan, do you think you'd be going? Would you make your way out to one of them if in the next set of DLCs?
I don't know why I waited so long to go to my first one. My first one was Seattle.
Yes.
I tried to go to Chicago. It didn't work out. I didn't even know about Atlanta. I was pretty new at the time.
Mhm.
Going to Seattle was incredible. I mean, I can't believe just the experience. Like over 2,000 people playing Lorcana was incredible. And yeah, absolutely. I want to go to every single one now. I don't even care if I win. I just want to play and just meet people.
Even the side events are fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
I do think
Yeah,
it's
my wife.
interesting seeing. We got Australia sort of added as another DLC, so they're definitely trying to, in addition to do more of them, they're also trying to sort of broaden their coverage. So it's a tall task to
Mhm.
tackle. It is interesting on the world's front of, you know, maybe there's conspiracy theory. They're waiting for all of Japan to be caught and China to be caught up.
Yeah,
But they are moving pretty quick, which is also wild. Of like, I'm looking ahead to Jafar's Reign is coming out in like 10 weeks or something from now, and I feel like that's too soon. But they're hitting like uh first chapter Floodborne in like 2 month period, and then Inklands next. It feels like they're booking along pretty quick. Maybe it's been a couple months, but definitely they keep getting more and more sets. They're like trying to catch up a little bit.
10 weeks out from Jafar. That's crazy. That does seem pretty quick. um. All right. Sorry. One of the things I actually wanted to ask you guys, um, because obviously not a whole lot of news to dwell on here, but before we move on, uh, if you were to guess, like you have to guess,
Mhm.
when they will finally do a Worlds, when do you think it'll be, Jimmy?
I'm gonna say October, and it'll be before Halloween. They'll do a bunch of Halloween themed set dressings. That's my shot. I'm calling.
October. Okay. What about you, Ryan?
yeah, it's tough. So I'm thinking they release Inklands in April, kind of along your theory, like release all the sets. They're all caught up. All right, now we can do Worlds, right? So they release Inklands in April. They released Ursula's Return in May, Shimmering Skies, and then our Shimmering Skies, and then what? Sorry, there's a there's a set here I'm just blanking
Azurite.
on. Azurite, yes,
Yeah.
it's a C. And then set 7. I'm thinking October as well, maybe even November.
I
Okay.
do think, regardless of what it is, you probably have to announce it at least, like, say, a month in advance would be like the
Yes,
smallest
please.
gap,
Yeah.
because travel and like content creator, all the whole shebang, right? So even if they like get all their stuff on their end organized, they still have to like give a decent gap from when they say, okay, here it is, to when it happens.
I'm gonna go September. That's like an off season for Disney World, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, and I'm
another
wondering
complexity, is they have to collaborate with the big mouse house, and
exactly. Yep. Yeah, so I'll go with September. I'll go with the early one. Okay. But all that's conjecture. We will see. We'll see when we see. But yeah, so anyway, that's pretty much all we have for news, which isn't a whole lot. That's okay. It means that we can move straight into everyone's favorite segment. And this is Jimmy's Court, where Jimmy gets to read questions from our fellow heroes and gets to pass down the law for everyone. Jimmy, what we got this week?
All right, so the people we already kind of did our best to answer to win his worlds.
That was the first question.
Yeah, let's go into some heroics. Who's your favorite hero character? Doesn't necessarily have to be tied to a card per se, but what is your favorite hero character? I'm trying to think. I think for me, I'll give you guys time to think while I speak. It's in the name, Maui, hero to all. Ever since set one, playing a lot of Ruby Amethyst, it just feels good to have big old Maui swinging his fish hook on your side, chasing down the villains out there. It's never really felt bad to play a Maui hero to all. And Maui himself, great singer, great fighter, good hero.
And you have to be a hero classification? It can just be a heroic character, or does the card have to be a hero?
I'll allow it if you can make the case.
Okay, I'll go. That's it's a difficult one, but the one that keeps coming back to me, because I'm not going to think too hard on it here. Robin Hood. Love Robin Hood. In set one of my favorite cards. I've always been Sapphire. Yeah, don't hate me now. I've always been Sapphire lover. And in set one of my favorite cards was the 4/4 Robin Hood that gets evasive on your turn, and when you play him, your opponent has more cards than you. You get to draw a card. Loved that card. Always tried to force it into my little Amber Sapphire deck. And then into the Inklands is when we got our I can't remember his variant name. The 3/6 Bloodborne
Champion of Sherwood.
Yeah, love that card.
Thank you. Yes, Champion of Sherwood is one of the best, probably one of the most iconic shift lines, maybe in Lorcana. Definitely one of the best ones for a while there. So definitely, so Robin Hood's gonna be my answer. What about you, Ryan?
I think it's a pretty easy answer.
Oh, he's got the card.
The goo. When this card first came out, I was very new. I think I had opened like 3 packs of Inklands, and Ursula's Return comes out. I open a pack and I get this super goof, and I'm like, this is the best card in Lorcana. Don't fight me on it. Yeah, I just started playing 2 weeks ago, but this is the best card in Lorcana. I've played it in like 1 deck ever, but I just love Goofy in general. Obviously, I got my foil one here. I love the foil one. I like the idea of gaining lore while challenging. I like how you can buff him with a crab, or you can, if you hit something that's cheaper, you can play Go the Distance, ready him, do it again, and you've just paid 4 ink for 4 lore, and all you did was challenge. You didn't have to quest, you didn't have to do anything. Your opponent just had to have an exerted character. And Goofy in general, I love the Goofy movie. I love all the Goofy characters. Easily super goof.
I like both of those examples because I feel like the cards are pretty flavorful as well. In terms of Super Goof is a very heroic thing to just dash in there. It's not about his own self-preservation. He's there to get you the win. Sometimes he gets too lore and is banished, and that's okay. And then Robin Hood, Unrivaled Archer that John mentioned, even his ability is Feed the Poor. When you play the character, opponent has more cards, you draw a card. So like it's very Robin Hood, and he's got a bow. Evasive is kind of archery coded in a way in Lorcana, and I just feel like a lot of that is just not just like cool, fun cards, but like they fit the characters well.
It's evasive only on your turn, so it's kind of like he's shooting. He's not going to miss, right? Like, yeah. And I like the Goofy's also like not super strong, I like to like.
Yeah.
I feel like
He's brave, right?
Yeah, he's
He's
brave.
brave.
He's not,
Yeah.
not super strong. Yeah, that's a good one.
Never underestimate the power of a goof.
All right, another question. What hero character are you most hoping to see when Pixar enters Lorcana? For me, I really think of Toy Story when I think of Pixar. They've had a bunch of movies, and particularly thinking of Buzz Lightyear as a hero that I'd love to see a card for. He's got his cool wings, he's got his laser blaster, he's got sort of the villain Zurg that he can fight and defeat. I think there's a lot of space for some cool cards around there, as well as I also think of Kingdom Hearts and like their Toy Story level and how those characters were involved, and I feel like there could be maybe some fun Floodborne type characters that poke fun at those adventures as well.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh, sidebar, Judge. What ink color would Woody be for you?
Would Woody be? I think he'd be amber, although now that we have dual inks, maybe he could be an amber steel sheriff. I think amber just because he's definitely not about working with friends and togetherness, which is a lot of the amber sort of vibe, and then steel because well he's got a gun and that's very steel style.
He's got a gun.
He's got a gun.
Nice.
But I could see an amber steel Woody.
That's good. That's good. Man, I'm looking at like a list of Pixar characters right now. One jumped to my head immediately, but I wanted to make sure not to just go with it before I thought about it. But I think I am anyway. Flick from Bug's Life. I love Flick. Flick's awesome. And to follow my own question, he would be a Sapphire character. He would have some. I know. Don't get nauseated, but he would have some sort of item interaction because he's an inventor. Maybe we'd give him the inventor classification, and it can do something other than like 5, 6. I think when we had inventors as a keyword.
Yeah, they started to dabble in it. I think what was Hiram in set 2 is also an inventor. He just wasn't capitalized on until set 6.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it was set 6 that we started capitalizing. But yeah, I think Flick would be fun. Like a really low strength, willpower kind of Sapphire character with some sort of item interaction. But that's what I'd do. What about you, Ryan?
So I have a couple picks. I originally Buzz. I had to go Buzz. But I think I don't know if this character would be a hero. I'm gonna need Judge Jimmy's call on this one. But Wally.
Oh,
I would love to see a Wally and Eva cards. I'm not sure what ink color combo Wally would be. I kind of think he would be Amber Sapphire. I don't have good rationale for that. I'm just intuition.
I agree with the Sapphire. I mean, he'd probably do something with items, right? He'd.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And he's like cleaning up the world. That's very ambery, right?
Yeah.
So,
I don't know if he would heal damage or I'm not sure what he would do, but I just love Wally. Yeah. But I have a couple other characters if you guys are interested in hearing them.
Yeah.
Doug from Up. I just need to see Doug on a card.
Yes.
And another character I don't think anyone would want to see in Lorcana but me, but Roz from Monsters, Inc.
Oh, no, I've got a lot of people.
I really need to see Roz on a card. Also, not sure what she would do, but I don't think it would be like mean. It would be very neutral.
Yeah.
But I think maybe she's in an action instead rather than a character card, and the card is always watching. And and like you just get to scry one or look at your opponent's top 5 and then put one in the discard or put not like the opposite of oh gosh, maybe gathering knowledge, but on your opponent's deck or something.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. Man, I'm afraid this question is like a trap because I could sit here like
Forever.
I'm looking at Remy. I think Remy would make a really awesome Emerald character that costs like 4, is uninkable, and when you exert him, he takes control of another character, like an opponent's character.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Hair.
Oh man.
But he has to live for a turn, and he's like overcosted, understated kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A little mind control.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Oh, but yeah, I feel like that's a rabbit hole of a question. I like that one.
I think to go off of what Heinz was saying earlier, of would I classify Wally as a hero? And I want to say I would. It definitely seems like a lot of Lorcana heroes are quote unquote main characters, usually protagonists. Wally's definitely the poster child of his movie, but I think it leads into one of our other questions: is what non-hero do you think deserves to be a hero? And I'll leave my answer for last this time, since I've been going first.
That's tough.
Non-hero. So whenever I hear this question, so we were talking a little bit about this before we started the podcast here, and Pluto jumped to mind first, right? Because that big Floodborn Pluto, he's got the cape flowing, he's a huge bodyguard, right? Yeah. He's sitting there protecting. That's all he's doing. He's protecting people, and he's just healing so he can just protect better. I definitely think he should be a hero. And in fact, when I looked up the card, I was surprised that he wasn't a hero. So I'm gonna go with Pluto. Let me get his variant name real quick. I think he's like something defender.
Determined defender.
Yeah, determined defender.
Good alliteration.
Yeah. So yes, exactly. He should be a hero. He has great alliteration. That's my answer. What do you got, Heinz?
I've noticed in Lorcana that if the character isn't like the main, I guess, character of the show or the movie, they're not typically classified as hero. So like there are characters, I'm looking at allies right now and I'm thinking, oh, that's not a hero. That's interesting. But for me, I guess, and I can understand why, but I would say any genie card, really. I think Genie's a hero. But technically he's an ally. I think all of his cards, he's an ally.
Especially once he's set free from the lamp and sort of has his own free will, then at that point I feel like he really, especially with the TV shows and the sequels, whether you like them or not, I think it leans into his more independent heroics, because again, when you're just can only do what you're requested to do, it can be tough to stand out as a hero.
Right.
All right, Judge.
So for me, originally when I was thinking through around this question, is I saw Daisy Duck, Donald State, the two quester for one. I was like, oh, she's an ally. Like she feels like she's part of the Fab Five. Why isn't she a hero? And I looked around, and her Musketeer card and her a couple Pirate Dreamborn cards are heroes. So I was like, oh well, she does have a hero. Okay, so some of her cards are heroically inclined. But I think for me, the one card that should be a hero is probably Jock. He's this little Scottish Terrier, if you're familiar, from Lady and the Tramp. And I think him saving, along with Trusty saving Tramp from the dog catcher, that's pretty heroic stuff. So, maybe there isn't a card for him right now that I'm familiar with, but I do think a heroic Jock would be good.
That could be a good one. They probably just haven't released a card like that because no one really knows who he is or cares. Yeah. So
could be a power level issue too if he's too good.
That could be too. Yeah. All right. So you have one more for us, or should we move into the main segment?
Yeah, I wanted to do a twist on this one of It's kind of a rules, a judge question for you. So I wanted to shout out the Lorcana Rulebook Hub Discord server. They do lots of fun little quizzes on sort of card rule actions. So I thought I'd bring us in one here. So sort of the scenario I'm going to ask you guys, and you're going to have to tell me what the correct sort of gameplay resolution here is. So we have Iago Giant Spectral Parrot out, and it is controlled by player 2. They're this Amethyst Steel Vanish sort of illusion deck player, so they have Iago out. And then you, the hero, are an Emerald player. Mono Emerald, that's all you need to win. You're playing Mother Knows Best, which is a 3-cost uninkable action. It's also a song. Return chosen character to their player's hand. So you target Iago, thinking, you know what? I need to get rid of this giant bird, even though he's an illusion. So my question is, what happens to Iago? And I'll give you a couple of options here. 1, Iago's returned to hand and not banished. End of story. 2, Iago's returned to hand and then he's banished from the hand to the discard. Or 3, Iago gets banished. There's no return to hand to deal with.
I think, well, maybe I shouldn't say I know this one. I think I know this one. The judge will be able to tell me if I got it right. What do you think, though, Ryan? Do you know the answer to this one?
You know what? So lately, I've been playing more Emerald than I normally do, and I actually used we don't talk about Bruno on a character with Vanish, and everyone in the room kind of paused and they're like, "What do we do?" They put our hands up. We're like, and we're just looking around. We call a judge. Judge is like, right, and so we decided, all right, just play it as if it doesn't get banished. Put it back in the hand, discard one at random, and move on. I will admit, though, in that moment, I thought, you know what? I'm pretty sure because Vanish, they should have been just banished, comma, and then they still discard a card at random from their hand, which isn't fun for anybody. Well, I actually wouldn't mind it, but doesn't feel right. But I really like that play line.
All right. Well, Your Honor, I believe that when you play Mother Knows Best, you must first resolve Mother Knows Best fully by putting Iago into their hand. Iago's Vanish effect is triggered and put into the bag, but Iago is now in a zone in which the trigger no longer can affect him, and so he stays in hand and he is not banished.
That is correct. So to go into kind of specifics, which again, shouting out the Lorcana Rulebook Hub, once the 24-hour period's over, they break it down. 6.3.4, they reference is any effect that's triggered because of an action being played is placed in the bag, so you set it aside, and it will resolve after the effects of the action are fully resolved. So like John said, you need to fully resolve Mother Knows Best, so the card has to be returned to hand. The card is in the hand, and then you resolve the triggered abilities. However, like John said, it's in a different zone. The trigger can no longer really affect the card because triggers really work mostly on the glimmers in play. So once it's in hand, it's hidden information. It's completely different. And so sort of the end state of Mother Knows Best on Iago is in their hand. And so like Ryan said, in his we don't talk about Bruno example, the card would go to hand, they would randomly discard a card, and then the Vanish trigger would occur, and it would just kind of fizzle because there's nothing to do.
I'd like to file a protest with that decision.
It definitely feels weird because you intuitively, a lot of Lorcana is like, do all of the thing before you do anything else. But like Vanish, you're like, oh, they put this keyword in so that anything looks at it, it's just gone. But the way the rules sort of play out is that it's triggered ability. It's not some sort of replacement effect. If it was ruled as like resist style replacement effect, then it would kind of fizzle the return to hand and just be banished. But because it's a when an opponent chooses this character for an action, banish them, it's a very reflexive trigger. And so you get some kind of oddball situations.
I would like to make one objection, Your Honor.
Mhm.
You stated in that question that player one, our hero, was playing Mono Emerald.
Yeah.
I object to any hero playing Emerald.
There were no discard cards, so they're using Mother Knows Best, not Bruno.
Okay.
Yeah. They're doing the fair one card for one card stuff. They're playing those ward characters. They're playing the Baymax with no battery. All the good Emerald cards,
Kind of on this topic, I guess. Just some silly actions you could play on a Vanish character. Just to get rid of it, right? Could you theoretically just use Good Job on a Vanish character? Chosen character gets +1 lore this turn, i.e. banish chosen Vanish character.
And so for a brief moment in time, they would quest for a little extra.
Yeah. I like that.
With it,
you say good job, now go away.
Yeah. Good job, Daddy.
They have to be legal targets, right? So you can't cast Brawl on
right on Iago
or Iago, right? Because it's not a legal target. So,
and I think that helps the Vanish keyword have a little bit more strength of it's not just hey discard an action card from hand and banish them. It has to be at least something that's relevant. I do think we're probably going to get more illusions next set. It's Jafar's big set. They printed for steel sort of limited format removal. The
Double
Trouble is it? Deal 1 damage to up to characters, I believe it says. And so they definitely are starting to put in a little bit of these softer multi-character target effects that should Vanish sort of be a little too overpowered. And so I feel like there's some safety valves already built in there. Even stuff like Painting the Roses Red, you choose 2 characters, -1 power, used in those Amber Emerald decks. That would be another sort of upgrade, oh, hey, I'll just banish 2 of your illusions over there. I don't even have to bounce them with Muses. So there's definitely a lot of interesting little actions out there that multi-target that I think could see more play if illusions show up.
Mob Song's 3 characters, right? That's the sing together 3 damage up to 3 characters, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's the steel sing together. Yeah.
Yeah, Mob Song.
All right. Well, that was good. I like that. Judge Jimmy, is there anything else on the docket, or should we move on to our main segment?
No, we can go to the main segment. I'll knock my imaginary gavel and adjourn.
All right. So main segment, we kind of mentioned this earlier. We're probably just repeating people, but I'm sure you all saw the meta from day 1 of the WCC 5K tournament. Jimmy, I see you nodding your head. Ryan, did you see what the top 16 look like at the 5K?
I did, yeah, briefly.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
So I'm looking at it here on my monitor, and I'm seeing 1, 2, is it 3? Was it really only 3 decks? 3 decks that did Sapphire out of the top 16?
Yep.
Yeah. So, breaking news, everyone watching the podcast right now. We might have a problem with Sapphire. You heard it here first. No one's predicted this. Laws of Heroism are bringing it to you. Sapphire might be strong right now. So,
do you think it's interesting to still see some of those other decks trickle through? It's always hard to read the tea leaves of metas, and I'm definitely a big fan of how many top X's, whatever a good percentage point is, top 8 or top 16 of this one's so large, had certain decks. Because it does show that with a really good pilot and a little bit of luck, which we all need, they were able to overcome and presumably a large field of other Sapphire decks. So they are getting some wins in there, but it's definitely a large batch of Sapphire. The other interesting thing of this format is it's 2 Sapphire decks, kind of even 3 or 4, 2 different ink color pairings, but there's kind of the DKP, more action, Shark Maui, McDuck Manor style I've seen before. There's obviously the very new heavy item build, and then on the Sapphire Steel, there's kind of a similar heavy item, and then there's kind of the more curve out tempo, Kiwi Birds, Sapphire Steel aggro, whatever nomenclature you want to give it. And so I think at least from that perspective, there's some diversity, as well as the decks are evolving. They're not the same that they were week 1, which maybe leads me into a question for you, John, who's known a lot of Sapphire, especially Ruby Sapphire. Of a lot of the first couple weeks were seeing a lot of Oswald play, and I feel like some of these decks were seeing a similar 2-drop uninkable, cares about doing some inking of Chicha. Do you have any thoughts on why people are shifting that direction? Is it just something they're trying out? What are the pros or cons between sort of a Oswald build versus a Chicha build?
Well, so it is my opinion that Oswald isn't what I would consider a competitive card, and the reason why I say that is when I think of competitive decks, when I'm competitive cards, I think of cards that either flatten the inconsistencies of a deck, right?
Mhm.
Oswald does no such thing. he is feast or famine. I played in League a couple weeks ago for funsies. I had Ruby Sapphire. It was a weird item deck. Had Oswald in it. I was playing against a good friend of mine, and I watched as Oswald turned over 4 cards that I absolutely needed. Like my entire game plan. We're talking big Sisu, big Tammy, and I can't even remember what it was, like a half shark or something like that. Turned over 4 of them and just threw them to the bottom of the deck. So if I were to guess, I would say it's because people are like, okay, we've had our fun with Ozzy, but we need consistency. If you have Chicha in that 2 spot, when you ink, you draw. Okay? I mean, that happens. That's just what happens. Obviously, Calhoun's, me, Tipo, all these other cards, they do what they're going to do. Oswald, I just think it's a consistency thing, and that's probably why we've seen him.
Plus, he quests for 2, so there's maybe a little bit of greed there too. Of I could quest a little bit more.
Yeah, there is, and that is really good. But he's one of those, like, what I would call like a totem card, right? Like you never turned Bucky sideways, right? Bucky could have had 4 lore on him. You probably wouldn't have turned him sideways.
Yeah, right.
That's not why he's there. Or Cogsworth, for example. But you did bring up a good point about we do have this Ruby Sapphire, and we have a lot of this Sapphire Steel, but they are, I would say, like 5 different decks. You have the DKP, like you said. I think you have the standard Ruby Sapphire, Half Shark, Visions, et cetera, et cetera.
Big Sisu stuff.
Yeah, Sisu, maybe a dime. But then you also have kind of a standard Ruby Sapphire, but it's a little more item-centric. So what you see is instead of the 4 Talas, you'll see 4 Scrooges, right? But you need just a little more items in that deck for Scrooge to actually pay off, right? You don't want to put like an Aerial Spectacular Singer in your Steel Song if you only have 10 songs, right? And then, like you said, with Sapphire Steel, you have like the Zan item deck, and you have that kind of tempo, which is kind of, I mean, so it's kind of nice, right? It's kind of nice. It's not like the days of Ruby Amethyst, where it's the same 2 decks in 14 of the 16
4 cards different, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, a couple of them. And so you did bring up a good point. Also, you have like the Chernodog deck. We also have I don't know if Beitzel 11. I don't know if the Amber Steel player was like a Steel Song or not. But what do you think, Ryan? How are these guys trickling into like this top 16 with these other decks that are kind of wild and off, definitely not Sapphire. How do you think they're getting in there?
So I'm looking at the Amber or the Steel Song now, actually.
Oh.
Really interesting. If I'm looking at the right list here, they've got your classic, Cindy, Daisy. They've got the Robin Hood Shift line, the Smee, 3 Troubadours, which I like a lot. But there's 2 Auroras.
A little spicy.
This new Amber, this new Amber Legendary. I'm looking at the other top 16 though. I'm thinking when she's played, it's going to get brawled pretty quick, or Baby Sisu. Yeah. 2 Biancas. I really like Miss Bianca. I play a lot of Amber Steel. How did they get up here though? Good pilots, really experienced players. I mean, Steel Song's a good deck. If you're really
whole new world disruption, probably it's still if you get it off at the right time, it's tough. But if you can sort of put a weird pause on their game plan by shuffling up their hand, because these decks do draw lots of cards, and so it's not like you're playing against someone with 1 card in their hand. You play a whole new world and feel bad about it. It's they have 7 cards in hand, cool.
Yeah. And then Cherno Dog, I mean, that deck I think can just catch people off guard. It beat me a couple weeks ago, and I was really upset about it. And I was like, wow, that deck's pretty good. That's fun.
I really like the 7-drop Tramp. I believe he's dual link, where he is cheaper for each character you have, and then when you play him, you can draw cards equal to the number of their characters and discard that many. So you get to filter your hand pretty aggressively if you have a wide board. And you can discard, say, 4 characters into the bin to get Chernobog so fast with this deck. Whereas before, it's like he'd be the one of in the deck that you're hoping to top deck, late game. But in this deck, you can kind of turbo it out. As well as the 2-drop Tramp is really cool. He costs 1 if you have Lady, so you can slot him in real well to certain turns, and he gives +1 strength to another character for each other character you have out, so it gives you a little bit of combat potency that these colors usually don't have without like support or something.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, like every tournament's going to take luck, right? Good pilot needed, some luck always needed. And I wonder how much, because there's just that one extra element, and that is everyone's expecting Sapphire. So I wonder when decks like this, when someone sits across and it's a Chernodog all of a sudden, and they're like, I don't know what to do with that, right? And then take some
for not this,
Yeah, in League just this last week, I was playing against someone who always is playing Ruby Amethyst, and I altered for Ruby Amethyst, and they put a Daisy down first, and I was like, well, I don't have my Sisus. What?
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess there's definitely something to say about that too. So
I was talking to someone today that was playing Steel Song and trying to sort of tech it for Sapphire Steel, and long story short of the conversation was like, I can do XYZ things in my build to like better this matchup, but these other matchups are poor. And kind of my thoughts were like, well, if say 80% of the meta is Sapphire, then it makes sense to tech against that and realize that you have some bad matchups that are the other 20%. But I think of the meta can kind of be a little bit of a seesaw of like people are teching against one thing, and then the other decks become good and pop off, and there's sort of this balancing act. And I think at least with Lorcana, each of our sort of set seasons have seen very different starts and ends, whether based on someone found some new tech, a way to make a deck work, or a lot of the control decks sort of figured out what they're targeting and were able to do well in the latter half. So we'll have to see. I know there's definitely lots of people shouting for bans, but I don't know if we're at that point. We've gotten pretty far. Even Bucky, he effectively was banned, right? But even like the next set, the sort of the Zan build took over, and a lot of people consider that better than the Bucky list. So like, maybe we are limiting ourselves in some way and just not seeing what a certain answer is because we've been hard focused on a certain line. maybe that's too optimistic, but we're heroes, right? So
Yeah.
I will say though, ever since the Bucky errata, yeah, Zan's version came out, and yes, I do agree it was a better version. But knowing now the cards we have in set 6 and set 7, if Bucky was still around for those cards, like some of these things shifting out in on 2 and whatever, oof, I don't know. We still don't have answers for like award
right.
characters. They're on 2, right? Like, but but while we were talking about that, and I'm looking at these brackets and I'm seeing all this sapphire, right? And I'm like, okay, this kind of looks like there's a problem. How do we fix it? Here's a rabbit hole that I don't want to go down too far. But Jimmy, I'll ask you first. Yes or no? Would allowing a sideboard in Lorcana help alleviate the issues of something like this, like Sapphire is taking over, or previously, like Amethyst was like everywhere, right? Do you think a sideboard would really mix things up?
I don't think it would help in our current meta. But I mean, I guess we don't necessarily have like, oh, I wish I could play these 8 cards because they are just a perfect silver bullet for these Sapphire decks, but I don't put them in because they're just terrible in other matchups and they're uninkable. Like, I don't feel like we have that, but I do feel like, a sideboard could be a way to alleviate some of these things. I do think they want to avoid that just because so much of deck building in Lorcana is built around inkability and sort of looking for some of those flexible inkable cards that, which I do see like the Steel Song players putting some Find 'em Platinum, which I don't think is a silver bullet card, but it can really mess up the tempo of these decks, especially the really item heavy ones, to wipe their item board. But it's inkable, and so they can ink it when it's not relevant. And in Steel Song, especially, like it's a song that's inked that you can find with Ariel. Sometimes you're just with those high uninkable Steel Song decks. You're like, I'm just happy Ariel found me my next ink. I don't even need the song. I've already got Storms in my hand. I just need ink. And so I think leaning further into sort of very unique or situational inkable cards. Uninkables are really tough, and I think that's a conflict they kind of have to work with in their design of they want to make powerful cards and make them uninkable sometimes, but if they're so hyper-specific in their power and just dead in other matchups, that's when like a sideboard would be good because I don't want this dead weight in my deck, but maybe they want that to be the cost of certain things.
And just real quick, same question to you, Ryan, or Hines, Hero Hines. I don't know why I keep calling you Ryan. That's weird.
Weird.
Yeah. For those who may be listening and don't know, a sideboard is generally like, I think in Magic, it's 15 cards that exist outside your deck. And then in between games, you can swap out any of those 15 cards with any of the same number.
It's got to be 1 for 1, so it's always a swap. You can't just chuck them in. I think the other part too, to add some history for people that aren't used to it, is some sideboards in Magic are very much a list of silver bullet cards. I know I'm going to be playing against like an aggro deck. Let's just genericize it. I'm going to put in some, fire the cannons type cards in my sideboard. And then there's sideboards that are transformational, they're usually called, where you might have a Sapphire Steel build where your game 1 sort of plan is to be more that curve out aggro, and then your sideboard could be 15 of these big Tammies, other big item cards, and you can kind of transform what your deck's going to do in games 2 and 3. So you get that quick aggro win in game 1 before they've adapted, and then play a bit of a different game. So those are fun too. And then lastly, in Magic, there's sort of this wish board concept. There's card called Wish and other cards that you can grab things from your sideboard. So they're not really using them in between games. They're using cards to grab them during the game. I don't think that'll really be a Lorcana thing. But I do kind of like the idea of the transformational sideboard with these same ink colors, but doing some different stuff that you could really change up. They think you're playing aggro game 2, and you kind of say, "Psych, I'm playing this item control deck now."
What do you think, Hero Hines? Sideboard, yay, nay? Does it do anything for us?
Kind of like that a lot, actually. It feels really bad going into a matchup. Like kind of like you said, you're expecting Ruby Amethyst, and you're like, all right, yeah, we're gonna do this, right? And then they start, they play something completely random, and you're like, oh no, my entire game plan was because I thought they were gonna play this. I kind of like the idea, like especially in best of two. You have one of your worst matchups, kind of taking 2 losses. But if you had a sideboard, you can maybe throw a couple things in, take a couple things out, give you the possibility of tying or drawing rather. I kind of like that idea. I know Star Wars actually does have a sideboard. I think it's 10 cards.
Yeah. So maybe a little for, a little against. That's fine. I think that's pretty much all I have to talk about in the main segment here.
Maybe throw in one more wrench of a thought of, maybe instead of even banning cards, there's some aspects of the game, like you said, with sideboard that can be transformed. What do you think about the mulligan? The Lorcana mulligan is super powerful, in my opinion.
I'm sorry, the altar? The altar? I don't know what a mulligan is.
Yeah, the altar. So yeah, you alter your hand, you get 7, you get to pick, some to ship back and grab some more. It lets you be very selective in I want to keep these cards, I'm searching for these to be in my opening hand. Boom, a lot of times I'm able to hit that popsicle bell turn 1. In some other card games, it's, okay, I draw my 7. Do I like these? I mean, I guess I'll keep it, or no, I'm going to send all of them back, draw a new hand. Depending on what year you're talking about Magic and other card games, these things have changed. You may just get 1 free mulligan, like I believe Star Wars. You just draw another 7, and that's the one you keep. Magic right now, you sort of decrement downwards. You keep 6 of the 7 or 5 of the 7. And so there, in that aspect, Lorcana does become a little faster in some regards to getting your turn 1, 2, 3 hit. You really are focusing on what am I going to be doing those first couple turns, and you can actually kind of make it a reality. Whereas in other games, sometimes you don't have that start. You're like, I'm going to ink and pass, cool. But because it is so powerful, you're then in a really bad spot if you don't hit sort of your 1 drops and the other person is hitting their stuff. Whereas in some other games, it's usually a little slower to sort of get things going. I feel like Lorcana, they want it to be a little faster, just to get games done with, but there could be a case made on sort of mulligan changes or alter changes.
I think I like the way Lorcana's done it. And the reason why is because this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Oswald again. This is the Oswald episode, I guess. He doesn't help with your consistency, right? But this altar is so powerful in Lorcana. If you make a deck and it has a plan, when you throw in the geometric distributions and stuff like that, if you have a 4 of 1 drop that you really want to hit and you alter out 14, there's a 66% chance you're going to hit that card, which means your deck gets to do what it's supposed to do. I don't want this to be half of us half this podcast talking about Magic, but in Magic, getting mana screwed, when your opponent gets it, it feels awful. When you get it,
no one's happy.
Or a mana flood, right? I'm sure we've said, okay, Hero Hines, you and I played League just this past Tuesday, just a few days ago. We played a game where my deck bricked so hard, I played a card on turn 3 and turn 5. Everything else was just inking. That was the whole game. So those games I don't think feel good for either side. And so I kind of like the powerful altar. I want to see what your deck can do. And I want to see what my deck can do. See if we match. But that's how I feel.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely an incentive to less non-games in Lorcana between inkable cards as opposed to some sort of lands in Magic or energy in Pokemon, other resource systems. The fact that you can be like, you know what, this card is not a resource, I'm going to play it for its effect. That prevents, I think, a lot of the flood and lack of ink, and so that's really powerful. And the altering, very consistent. I do feel like we see a lot more real live games, even if it's a bad matchup. You're getting to play cards. You get to play Lorcana.
What do you think, Heinz? Would you change the altar, or you like it where it's at?
I really like the altar system. Yeah. I think I've played a little Pokemon before I played Lorcana, not a lot, but not competitively, certainly. And I remember thinking, I don't like my starting hand here. Like, I can't do anything. What do I do?
Yeah.
And then 3 turns later, I can finally kick on the engine, so to speak, of the deck. But my opponent's already taken out all the things I started doing, and yeah, it just feels really bad. So I am very thankful for the mulligan system, and truthfully, I think it's kept me into the game. I don't think if there wasn't a mulligan system, I'd play very conservative decks, and I wouldn't play any inkables, and yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know if I'd have as much fun.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I'd play all inkables, and I would not play any uninkables. Yeah. I think you know that, Matt.
Oops, all 1-drops.
Yeah, that's what I would literally play, I think. Yeah.
but that's also one of those things. If you would like to try out a new altar system, though, get together with a buddy or something and be like, hey, we're going to try this kind of altar system and see how it kind of feels, right? There's nothing stopping Kitchen Table from modifying the rules. That's how things like Commander came into Magic and stuff like that, right? So the power of friendship and teamwork you can find. You can
do whatever you want.
Exactly.
There's no DLC. What do we care?
Yeah, exactly. All right. I think that wraps up our main segment for now. That's pretty good. Let's move on to our hero of the week, Hero Heinz. Who do we have for our hero of the week?
Apologies to Mickey. The hero of the week is Oswald.
Ooh.
Oswald from set 6. Azurite Sea, as I forgot earlier. The Oswald, the Lucky Rabbit, 2-cost, uninkable, Storyborn hero. Favorable chance. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you may reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an item card, you may play that item for free, and they interplay exerted. Otherwise, put it on the bottom of your deck. Let's see. Art by Tom Bancroft / we talked about this earlier, right? Kristen Brashears. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. I apologize. He's got the normal version, and then he's also got the D23 version, which I don't own here. I have this fun version, though.
Yeah, John's
great card. Really fun. There, look at that. There you go. Yeah. I love that artwork, actually. It's really neat. I kind of want one. Oswald, interesting card. Really, really hot at the beginning of our set 7 meta here. Seems to be fizzling out. I know we talked about this earlier a little bit, but I guess do you foresee Oswald coming back, or is he gone from the meta for good?
I think he gave up on his temporary villainy and went back to being a hero. But I will say, I think anytime you want, if we get more like 1-drop draw card items, which would be pretty crazy, but if we did, I feel like just more of those sorts of items that just keep rolling through the deck, then he might see more play, as well as similar to the Queen plus Workshop deck, Ruby Sapphire we had a while back. So I don't think he's gone for good. I think he's shown he can be really, really powerful. I do think that the new Tammy being able to play, say, Dime for free, sort of on demand, helps, sort of reduces the reliance on, I need a high roll, a free Dime off of Ozzy to get ahead, whereas Tammy's like, I got you, man, I'll pay for it.
I love this card. I love it. His art is great. He's so
It is.
happy. He's trying so hard, guys. And that's all we ask for. So don't listen to any villains who want to disparage our lucky rabbit. He's awesome. As for if, he actually could really see meta share if, and I kind of hope they don't do this, but if we start getting more items, either that have on entrance effect, right? Obviously, like you were saying, like draw a card, but maybe not even draw a card. There could be other things too.
Yeah.
But also, if we get more cards that, more items that are used for controlling the board,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like, what if we had something that entered play, and when it enters the play, exert opposing character, they don't unexert they don't ready their next turn. You know what I mean?
Or ping a
Like,
damage, a little steel sort of
exactly.
explosive or something. I don't know.
Right. Or things like that, or heaven forbid, like an item tied to like a dragon fire that comes into play, and all you have to do is banish it to banish another character. Obviously,
Meteor golem.
but but cards like that, he can come in. The problem is to make something like him work, you're looking at like 30 items or something in your
Yeah.
deck, which I've tried before. It's just the problem is while you're filling your board with items, they're just filling their boards with things that win. So you can't really just sit there and do your own thing, right?
Solitaire is fun, but playing Lorcana with two people is a little better.
Yes, that's true. Go out and get the Ursula's quest.
Yep.
To play solo. Wait, can you play that solo? Sorry.
Yeah, one versus her.
Yeah, I'm gonna play.
And presumably we'll get some sort of Jafar flavor, right? And so maybe you want to bully him with all your card draw and your items.
Yeah.
As long as he doesn't have Find Him Platinum in his deck.
But Ozzy, meta or not, is always going to be a fun card to me. He's just a fun card. He's
always
Mufasa's
exciting.
Right? Mufasa's always a fun card. Though that is a fun comparison, right? Because I was actually thinking about that earlier today. It's like, well, Oswald flips a card, and if it's an item, you play it. Mufasa flips a card if it's a character, you play it. So what's so different here? And the answer is kind of like what I just said, right? In Mufasa, you can make a deck of only characters.
60 characters will work, yeah.
He's always going to flip. Oswald, you cannot make 4 Oswalds in 56 items, right? Because you got to control.
Now I got to try it, but yeah.
Yeah, you can try it with like Walk the Plank and the Poisoned Apple and the Swords of Truth, which I have. And if you guys, I don't know if you noticed, there was at least one deck, Ruby Sapphire item deck, in that 5K yesterday. And what they were using was like the Magic Carpet Bag, I think it was. And they had the Dragon Crossbow. And
Just
so
keep
it was a
it
mirror
right.
match. And so they were banishing out the crossbow to take out their Sisu, then using the bag to pull it back, and then they could just play it again. And even if they weren't taking out a Sisu, they were using the 2 to -2 strength them, and then with all the sapphire coils, it was actually kind of mean. But I wouldn't do that as a hero. That seems too mean.
Agreed.
But yeah, I don't think Ozzy sees, like, I don't think we'll ever see him at Worlds or the final table of a DLC, but maybe we will. That'd be great. I would like it. Look how happy he is.
He
Look at
is.
that smile. That's a happy rabbit. Like him.
That'll be the next Oswald card. Oswald the Happy Rabbit. We got the Lucky Rabbit.
Floodborn.
Ooh.
When you shift this character, just go through your library, sorry.
He'll be full color too.
Go through your deck, find an item, and just put it into play.
Yep.
Kind of like the Merlin Floodborn. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Any other parting words on our hero of the week, Ozzy the Lucky Rabbit? Okay, well, I think it's about that time, guys. I think we are getting to the end of our very first episode of Laws of Heroism, which is so much better than that hive of scum and villainy that's normally on this channel.
Good times.
So, yeah, so I think that'll do us. Let us know your thoughts on the hero of the week. if you guys agree that we picked a good one here with Ozzy. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're joining us on audio, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
And if you're joining us on YouTube, please be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and click the bell so that way you're getting notified on our next episode.
And if you'd like to contact us, you can reach us at lawsofheroism@gmail.com or on the platform formerly known as Twitter, Laws of Heroism.
Until next week, stay safe, fellow heroes. Be wary of dastardly villains who want to disrupt your heroic plans with 2-hour-long podcasts. And remember, the laws of heroism.